Ain't nobody want to get lit up by a Harry B, right? Never a good look. Where do we start? Where do we start? I think I'm going to get into my Stephen A bag here when it comes to Steve Kerr. So listen, Steve Kerr is a Hall of Fame coach. He's a great, great man. I've got a lot of love for Steve Kerr. However, I am disgusted with that Kevon Looney, Dario Saric lineup. What do you think? Not so good, I know. But that's how I feel. That's how I feel. Look, man, okay, for the last month, 6 weeks, we've talked about Kuminga and Wiggins cannot fit. Look at their plus minus. Kuminga and Wiggins can't play them at the same time. Our two best athletes, our two most versatile wing players can't play them. And now Steve Kerr is insisting on starting Looney and Dario, a.k.a. the Dooney lineup. There's certain things here where it just are we listening to the plus minuses or not? What were they, a minus 30 last night? And then you compound it with the fact that the Kings were tailor-made for Kuminga to start, or the four-time champion defensive player of the year, Draymond Green. Like it makes no sense at all, and it's completely contradictory to the way he has been coaching as far as, again, the Wiggins-Kuminga thing, because this one is 10 times as bad. You cannot have those guys out there in a modern basketball game for minutes, let alone start. And that is how our old friend Harry B got going. It was because Dario was on him, couldn't get out to the three-point line. He knew it. That's what you have to understand defensively. Yes, I know Kuminga they all make mistakes, right? But when Kuminga or Wiggins is guarding you, or Draymond, as a shooter on the perimeter, there is you have to say, okay, is he going to get out? Is he going to get out and contest this? Could he alter my shot? When it's Dario or Looney, that thought doesn't cross their minds. It's like practice. It's like shooting practice. You get the ball, you're shooting it. It takes away any hesitation. Not to mention the transition defense, the rim, it doesn't make any sense. And so I don't want to be this guy, but I'm losing faith in Steve Kerr, because at the end of the game, okay, we know he likes scramble situations, right? And it makes sense when there's a scramble. When you can get a stop late in a game and get a defensive rebound and outlet it, or you get a live ball turnover, right? Then you get a scramble and the floor is unbalanced offensively. Fine. There was no scramble. Herter misses the free throw, and 3 of our 5 guys are back in the paint, and they're walking up the court. At that point, there's no advantage. There's no scramble. And to me, and I can say this from coaching at a very low level, but I've felt it before, even at that level. Sometimes late in the game, it's like 15, 20, say you call the timeout, right? Timeout. And then you're kind of like, oh, what do I do, right? All of a sudden you feel the pressure to draw something up properly. And to me, when there's no scramble and you don't call the timeout, that's a cop-out as a coach. And you'll never see a coach's coach. A coach's coach, meaning a guy that came up through the ranks and worked his way to being a coach through the grassroots, they're always calling that timeout, right? It's these guys that it's not a profession for them. And it's a second profession. A player coach, they're like, hey, just let them scramble. They don't want to draw anything up. I didn't like it. I don't like the decision-making. It's concerning, and it feels like Steve Kerr's shelf life as the decision-maker and head coach of this team is expiring. And now the Kings, we all know, can shoot the lights out, and it's not a great barometer to judge your defense against this Kings team, especially in this matchup. But the other thing that I notice is Draymond, he's out of shape. His timing is off, as to be expected. I don't think Draymond can roam and play that free safety role like he once did in 2024. There is just too much shooting on the floor, and you saw that play out a couple times last night, right? And the truth of the matter is, I had said it before in what was the game against Atlanta. You're like, oh, Klay has fresh legs. If Klay had signed an extension before the season starts, do you think he would be playing on the back end of these back-to-backs? It's so clear that he struggles on the back end of back-to-backs. And to Klay's credit, look, the effort was there. He had some really tough finishes. I'm not like trying to put a ton of thing on Klay, but I just think that there's all these agendas that are unavoidable in the situation that the Warriors are in. I guess The other big headline is Steph Curry getting snubbed from starting the All-Star game, right? Um, Give me an argument why he would start over SGA or Luka. Certainly isn't win-loss record, right? Doesn't have the numbers they have, And so I get it. Fan, short for fanatic. There's also stans. There's a lot of Steph stans. Do your thing. I get it. It's more than reasonable. Arguably the greatest player of this generation, this most special player, right? Of one of them of all time. That's fine. But you're objectively speaking, SGA and Luka have had better seasons. Their teams are winning more, and Steph said as much, right? Now the LeBron comparison, people say, well, LeBron made it. It's positional. If you've paid attention to the All-Star game stuff, you see this since the beginning of time, since they've been doing this. Some guys get in off positional value, right? Like there's just not enough good players at a certain position, and so a guy gets inched in. To me, the bigger snub was Dame over Brunson in the Eastern Conference. Now, maybe this motivates Steph. He had that 18 in the first quarter, but no, I'm not going to boo-hoo about that. I actually like the way they're doing it, where it's a portion of the player vote, the media vote, and the fan vote. And the fans, Steph was number 2 with fans, right? You saw where he lost and why he got bumped out of it. It was the media vote. I'm myself not technically media. I don't have a vote, obviously, but I like that it's portioned out in thirds like that. And it is what it is. Honestly, now don't get it twisted here. Steph deserves to be an all-star and have that accolade. Would it be like his, I don't know, he's in the double digits for all-stars, right? I'm not saying that, but I don't think it would necessarily be a bad thing for him to just not have to do that weekend. Because what have we been talking about? His fatigue, his legs, and all that. But it may not be such a bad thing for him not to have the stress of that weekend. I'm sure he's going to have to be there as a reserve, but I wouldn't mind him just staying home and golfing and recharging for the back end of this season. But I wanted to save the positive stuff for last. Jonathan Kuminga, career high. What did he have, 30? And they went to him down the stretch late. We can talk about the refereeing and the no calls. The look where Steph got whacked in the face, that one was bad. But if you watch some of the drives, I don't know. They're bang, bang. Like I don't know, right? And did Kuminga get hit on that last play? I love that they went to him, and you're just seeing, I don't know. I think a passing of the torch would be strong at this point, but I think you're starting to see how much they can use him and how much they do need him. And I was talking about his dribbling being connected to his feet. And he has an elite gather move. He has an elite gather move where on his final dribble and his pickup, he snaps his feet to 2 almost in any position that he's in because he's got such elite body control. And then he can elevate with no runway, no space. And a lot of these big leapers and jumpers in the NBA, they need a runway. They need space to elevate. He needs no space. And you watch that final gather, it really throws the defense off because they think he's picking it up and he kind of takes like another chain dribble and then he snaps his feet and he can finish in all these tight spaces. Encouraging performance to build on from him as they continue. We're still down, right? I know that some of you are you going to put, I hope no one does this, but I know someone will. They'll be like, well, Kerr's playing Dario and Looney because we're down. No. There is no excuse. Play Trace. There is, especially against a team that's not big. But just another encouraging performance from Kuminga. I know he had a couple defensive lapses, but what I really loved was when Klay got that technical late in the game, you saw Kuminga go over to Kerr on the sideline, and they were talking about it. Ask questions. That's always a good sign with the young player. He's asking questions. I think he's proven enough in these 3 years, the growth we've seen. He'll figure it out if you allow him to. So a really encouraging performance from him. Andrew Wiggins, what did I say, man? Keep your eye on Wiggs. He's starting to look like Andrew Wiggins, 6 of 8, 17 points. The 3 ball is starting to drop. So yeah, it's, we're just sinking lower and lower in the standings, so that it's tough to say a moral victory, but I think that I felt pretty good big picture about how most of the guys looked. But again, the execution and decision-making. As far as Sacramento goes and Harrison Barnes' big night, man, I feel like HB low-key has like a shrine somewhere in his house of Warrior stuff where his revenge And he goes, nah. But I think the Kings, what they had lost 4 in a row, right? And I think they had a pecking order issue. You look at their roster, they have so many guys that want touches and want to score the ball. They have too many mouths to feed. And clearly, Harrison Barnes had slid too far down the totem pole. And I think because he's a low maintenance guy and he defends, it's like, oh, I'll let Harrison right. But like Herter, Murray, Monk, these guys are just they only do one thing. They only try to score, right? And so, I think Mike Brown has a strong enough handle to eventually figure it out, but they're not exactly world beaters of late either. So it was a big win for them. De'Aaron Fox, I've heard this talk that he's slowing down. Now, I remember he had that nasty ankle injury early in the season. I was surprised how quickly he came back from it. I don't know if I don't watch the Kings enough to know like the nuance of his nagging injuries. But what I will say is De'Aaron Fox is 26, and this is his 7th season, and he plays with racing tires, right? All you've ever heard about Fox is not ever all, but he's the fastest guy in the league end to end, right? Well, those are racing tires. The tread on those wear out quicker, right? He's not just on some normal Michelin tires. And so again, 7th year, 26 years old. Clearly he's super effective, but yeah, I don't think it would be crazy to say, oh, maybe he's slowing down a little bit physically. He's not quite as lightning quick as he once was. There's a shorter shelf life on that type of play style, but he's added enough to his game and skill set. He's a foul merchant, right? That he's still going to be effective. But yeah, I don't think it's unreasonable to say, okay, Fox, his game is going to be changing a little bit. He's moving into a different phase of his career, right? We've got the Lakers primetime Saturday night. Yo, if he starts that Dooney lineup again, I mean, coaches are getting dropped like flies left and right, but and obviously they're not going to do that to him because of the cachet he has. And that's almost maybe why he's making these decisions. Someone make it make sense. What is the benefit of starting those two and ever playing those two? Hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.